Lieutenant Commander Jaiwo Park sat alone at her monitoring station aboard Europa 7. Her eyes scanned the data display showing the vast emptiness of the outer solar system. Most days were quiet here, just routine scans and occasional asteroid tracking. Today seemed no different as she sipped her coffee. The alert came without warning, a soft beep that quickly grew more insistent. Jaiwo put down her cup and leaned forward. The readings made no sense at first. "That can't be right," she muttered, running a system diagnostic. The equipment was functioning perfectly. The signal persisted. It pulsed in a precise pattern that couldn't possibly be natural. Its origin, somewhere in the distant Kuiper belt, far beyond Neptune. Jaiwo's heart raced as she triple-checked the readings. "Station director," she called through the comm system, her voice remarkably steady despite her shaking hands. "I need you to see this immediately." Within minutes, the small station buzzed with activity. Scientists crowded around her console, their faces showing a mixture of disbelief and excitement. The signal continued, unchanging and unmistakable. "It's artificial," confirmed the station's senior analyst. "And it's definitely not one of ours." The news spread quickly. Emergency meetings convened across Earth. For the first time in history, humanity had detected clear evidence of intelligent alien life. Admiral Taeho Kim received the call while reviewing training exercises at Space Command headquarters. His expression remained neutral as he listened to the briefing, but his mind raced with implications. As commander of Earth's most advanced warship, he understood immediately what this meant. "Prepare the deterrent for immediate deployment," he ordered. "Full crew, all systems. We depart in 6 hours." The UES deterrent sat in Earth orbit, a marvel of human engineering. Nearly a kilometer long, its angular hull bristled with sensor arrays and weapon ports. Originally built as humanity's ultimate insurance policy against the unknown, few had expected it would ever fulfill its intended purpose. The crew boarded in record time. Many had trained for this scenario, but none truly believed it would happen. As Admiral Kim took his place on the bridge, a hushed anticipation fell over the crew. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice carried throughout the massive vessel, "today we make history. We are about to become humanity's first ambassadors to another intelligent species. Let's make sure we're remembered for doing this right." The deterrent's experimental drive engaged, pushing the massive warship toward the distant Kuiper belt. The journey would have taken conventional spacecraft years, but the deterrent arrived in just days. "Signal source detected," announced the sensor officer. "Distance, 2 million kilometers and holding steady." "Magnification on main screen," ordered Admiral Kim. The bridge fell silent as the image appeared. Against the blackness of space floated a structure unlike anything human eyes had ever seen. The alien vessel seemed to be made of crystalline materials that caught and reflected the dim sunlight in ways that made it appear to shimmer and pulse. It was enormous, at least twice the size of the deterrent, with smooth curves that contrasted sharply with the angular human design. "It's beautiful," whispered Commander Park, who had been brought aboard as the mission's science advisor. "And potentially dangerous," Admiral Kim reminded her. "Begin first contact protocols. Standard greeting package on all frequencies." The communication officer sent the carefully prepared message, a series of mathematical constants followed by basic information about Earth and humanity, designed over decades by linguists and scientists. Everyone held their breath, waiting for a response. Minutes passed in tense silence. "Sir, they're moving," reported the tactical officer suddenly. On the screen, the alien vessel was indeed moving away from the deterrent, maintaining its distance with precise adjustments. "They're retreating from us," said Commander Park, her brow furrowed. "But why?" Admiral Kim studied the alien ship carefully. "Because they're afraid," he realized aloud. "Look at their vessel, no visible weapons ports, minimal shielding. They're not a warship." The implications hit everyone simultaneously. The deterrent, humanity's proudest achievement, bristling with weapons and armor, must appear terrifying to a species that prioritized science over military might. "They think we've come to attack them," said Commander Park, her voice barely audible. Admiral Kim straightened his uniform. then we need to convince them otherwise. Maintain distance, keep broadcasting the greeting package, and power down all targeting systems. Let's show them we came to talk, not fight. As orders flowed across the bridge, Kim watched the alien vessel maintain its cautious distance. Humanity's first contact wasn't going as anyone had imagined. Instead of meeting as equals, they had accidentally cast themselves as potential conquerors. Now they needed to find a way to undo that first impression before it was too late. Science Officer Nari could not look away from the screen showing the human warship. Her 6 fingers tapped nervously on the console as she studied the strange vessel. In her 50 years serving the collective, she had helped discover 17 new intelligent species across the galaxy. None had ever frightened her like this one. The design makes no sense, she said softly to herself. All those sharp angles and exposed weapons. The human ship was unlike anything in the collective's database. Where collective vessels mimicked natural forms, flowing curves like ocean creatures, this ship seemed built for one purpose: to threaten. Its dark hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it. Various protrusions lined its sides, which Nari's instruments identified as weapon ports. Her assistant Miho approached with fresh data readings. The energy output is incredible, he said. Their power source must be remarkably efficient. Nari nodded. Or remarkably dangerous. She gathered her notes and headed toward the command center. The ship's main hub buzzed with activity. Crew members monitored stations while speaking in hushed tones. Everyone had seen the human vessel by now. Everyone shared the same unease. High Commander Dury stood at the center platform, his normally calm face showing concern. At 200 years old, Dury had led more first-contact missions than anyone in collective history. His reputation for peaceful resolution was legendary. But today, he seemed uncertain. Nari bowed slightly before joining him at the viewing platform. Commander, I have completed initial scans. Tell me something reassuring, Nari, Dury said without taking his eyes off the main screen. I cannot, she replied honestly. Their vessel contains technology we've barely theorized about. Their propulsion system operates on principles our scientists have only recently proposed. And their weapons. Yes? If our readings are correct, they could destroy our ship with minimal effort. Dury finally turned to face her. How is this possible? We've monitored their world for decades. They seem to be developing normally. Clearly our observations were incomplete, Nari said. Their technological growth must have accelerated dramatically in recent years. The main screen showed a continuous feed of the human warship. Its dark hull seemed to swallow the stars behind it. Occasional lights blinked along its surface like predator eyes. They're sending another transmission, reported the communications officer. Same as before? Dury asked. Yes, Commander. Basic mathematical sequences followed by images of their planet. Dury frowned. A standard peaceful contact approach, yet they send it from a warship. The contradiction is troubling. Nari studied the human vessel again. Perhaps conflict is central to their development. Maybe they evolved differently than species we typically encounter. That would challenge everything we understand about intelligent life, Dury said. The collective's founding principle is that advanced intelligence naturally outgrows warfare. War is inefficient. Destructive. All species we've encountered abandoned military development once they reached a certain technological threshold. Except this one, Nari said softly. A junior officer approached with new data. Science Officer Nari, we've detected smaller vessels launching from the human ship. Nari quickly reviewed the information. 6 small craft had deployed from the larger vessel and were moving in what appeared to be a formation. Are they attacking? Asked Dury, tension evident in his voice. Unclear, Nari replied. They could be scout ships. Or they could be weapons platforms, Dury finished. The command center fell silent as everyone watched the small vessels spread out in a pattern around the collective ship. They maintained distance, but their positioning seemed strategic. What kind of species makes first contact with a show of military force? Dury wondered aloud, not expecting an answer. But Nari had been considering this question since the human ship appeared. Perhaps one that expects hostility, she suggested. Perhaps their evolution was shaped by conflict in ways we cannot understand. You mean they expect us to attack them? Dury sounded surprised. It's possible they cannot imagine peaceful first contact, Nari said. Maybe their history taught them that strangers are always dangerous. Dury considered this. A sad way to exist. But potentially effective for survival, Nari pointed out. If their development was driven by competition rather than cooperation. An alert sounded at the tactical station. The officer there looked up with alarm. The human vessel is powering up something. Energy readings are spiking dramatically. Weapons? Dury asked sharply. Unknown, but the power signature matches nothing in our database. Dury straightened his posture. Prepare for emergency translocation. If they fire upon us. Commander, Nari interrupted, studying her own readings. I don't believe they're targeting us. The energy pattern is consistent with their communications array. They're trying to talk to us? Dury asked. Yes, but with significantly more power than before. Perhaps they think we didn't receive their earlier messages. Dury looked troubled. Or perhaps this is how predators call to their prey. Admiral Taeho Kim stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the main viewscreen with growing concern. The alien ship continued to keep its distance. 2 hours had passed since their arrival, and despite sending messages on all frequencies, the aliens had not responded. Why won't they answer us? He asked quietly. Commander Jaiwo Park looked up from her station. Sir, I think they're scared of us. Scared? Of us? Admiral Kim frowned. He had never considered this possibility. Look at their movement patterns, Park said, pointing to her screen. Every time we adjust our position, they make a corresponding move to maintain the same distance. Classic avoidance behavior. Lieutenant Juno at the sensor station nodded in agreement. Their engine output increases whenever we power up any system on our ship. Admiral Kim walked slowly to Park's station and studied her readings. Show me a detailed scan of their vessel. The screen filled with data about the alien ship. Park pointed to several key measurements. Notice these energy signatures, sir. Their power distribution suggests this is primarily a research vessel. I detect large areas dedicated to what appear to be scientific instruments. And here, she highlighted another section, minimal energy allocated to defensive systems. You mean they can't fight back if we attacked? Kim asked, his voice dropping lower. They would stand no chance against the deterrent, Park confirmed. Their defensive capabilities are barely enough to handle space debris, let alone our weapons. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. The deterrent had been built after decades of debate about humanity's preparedness for cosmic threats. Its design showcased humanity's most advanced military technology, a statement that humans would not be easy prey for alien invaders. But now, faced with a peaceful scientific vessel, the deterrent suddenly seemed excessive and threatening. We've made a terrible first impression, Admiral Kim realized aloud. We came in our most powerful warship, bristling with weapons, and expected them to welcome us with open arms. Sir, called the tactical officer, I suggest we launch communication scouts to establish closer contact. Maybe a smaller approach would seem less threatening. Kim considered this. Do it. Launch 6 scouts in standard diplomatic formation. Keep weapons powered down. 6 small craft detached from the deterrent. Each contained specialized communication equipment and was designed to form a network around another vessel, allowing for better signal transmission. It was a standard procedure for diplomatic missions. Aboard the alien ship, the atmosphere had changed from cautious observation to alarm. Commander Dury. They've launched attack craft, shouted a junior officer named Hannah, her voice high with fear. Dury rushed to the tactical display. Sure enough, 6 smaller vessels had deployed from the human warship and were spreading out in what appeared to be an encirclement pattern. Are they targeting us? He demanded. The tactical officer shook his head. No targeting signals detected, but they're positioning to surround our vessel. Science Officer Nari studied her own readings with growing concern. This formation matches nothing in our database. It could be a standard attack pattern for their species. On the main screen, they watched as the human scout ships continued their careful deployment. Each maintained exact distance from the others, creating a perfect hexagon pattern with the collective ship at the center. Why would they attack without provocation? Asked Dury, though fear had already given him an answer. Because that's what predator species do. We can't risk the safety of everyone aboard, Dury decided. And we must warn the collective about this species. Their military technology poses a potential threat to all peaceful worlds. He turned to his navigation officer. Prepare emergency translocation. Calculate jump coordinates to the nearest relay station. Sir, translocation drive requires 30 seconds to charge, the officer replied, fingers flying across controls. Begin charging sequence, ordered Dury. The ship's powerful translocation drive began to power up. Energy flowed from the main reactor into the specialized drive system that would allow them to jump instantly across vast distances of space. Aboard the deterrent, alarms suddenly blared. Sir! The alien vessel is powering up some kind of drive system, shouted Lieutenant Juno. Energy readings are off the scale. Admiral Kim leaned forward, tension visible in his posture. Weapons? Unknown, sir, but the energy signature matches nothing in our database. It could be a weapon charging or they're preparing to run, finished Park, looking worried. If they leave now, without proper contact. Kim understood immediately. If the aliens fled with the impression that humans were aggressive predators, they might return with reinforcements or worse, spread word throughout the galaxy that Earth was dangerous and should be avoided or contained. Open a direct channel, Kim ordered urgently. Maximum power to communications. We need to stop them before they leave. As the deterrence communication array powered up to full capacity, sensors on the alien ship detected the massive energy spike. They're charging weapons, cried Hannah, panic evident in her voice. Translocation in 15 seconds, reported the navigation officer. Dury looked one last time at the human warship on the screen. May the collective forgive us for bringing this news, he said quietly. The tension in both vessels built as the crucial moment approached. Two species, each misreading the other's intentions, each reaction making the situation worse, pushing them toward a potentially disastrous outcome that neither truly wanted. Alarms blared across the deterrence bridge. Red warning lights flashed as the ship's automated defense systems detected the energy buildup from the alien vessel. Targeting computers locked on, preparing to fire if the threat materialized. Alien energy signature reaching critical levels, reported Lieutenant Juno. Defense protocols activating in 10 seconds. Admiral Kim hesitated. Once the automated defense systems fired, there would be no turning back. First contact would become first conflict. Override defense protocols, he ordered. Sir, regulations require, began the tactical officer. Override them now, Kim demanded. As officers scrambled to comply, Commander Park suddenly pushed away from her console and rushed to the communications station. Without asking permission, she shoved aside the startled officer and began typing commands rapidly. Commander Park! What are you doing? Kim called out. Park didn't look up. Something different, sir. Something they might understand. Her fingers flew across the controls. Instead of the standard greeting messages they had been sending, she programmed a new sequence. First came the value of pi to 100 decimal places. Then the ratio of hydrogen to helium in the universe. The atomic weights of the first 20 elements. Shut down all weapon systems, she called out. Divert all power to communications. Admiral Kim watched in stunned silence as Park continued her work. On the main screen, the alien vessel's energy readings continued to climb. 5 seconds to their drive activation, warned Juno. Park hit the final command. The deterrent's powerful communication array directed a concentrated beam toward the alien ship. But instead of words, it carried images. Earth's blue ocean seen from space. Snow-capped mountains. Dense rainforests teeming with life. Children laughing in a park. Scientists in a laboratory. Artists painting. Farmers harvesting crops. "What are you doing, Commander?" Kim asked quietly, standing beside her now. "We've been showing them our strength," Park explained, not taking her eyes off her work. "But strength isn't what defines us. We need to show them our humanity." More images flowed outward. Ancient ruins beside modern cities. A surgeon performing a delicate operation. A rocket launching into space. A mother holding a newborn baby. "They need to see we're more than our weapons," Park said. "That we create as well as destroy. That we seek knowledge as well as protection." Aboard the collective vessel, the countdown to emergency translocation had reached 3 seconds when Science Officer Nari noticed something changing on her monitor. "New transmission type," she called out. "This isn't like their previous communications." The main screen shifted to show the incoming data. Mathematical constants appeared, universal truths that any scientifically advanced species would recognize. "Stop the translocation!" Nari shouted. "Hi, Commander, please. They're trying to communicate." Dury hesitated, then nodded sharply. "Halt translocation sequence." The whine of the drive system powered down. The bridge crew collectively held their breath as the new transmission continued. It's beautiful," whispered Hannah as images of Earth began to appear on the main screen. Nari moved quickly to the communications station. "These are images of their homeworld. And their people." She studied the sequence with growing excitement. "This is a basic communication attempt using universal mathematics as a foundation." Dury watched the screen with fascination. The images showed a complex world with diverse environments and life forms. The humans themselves appeared in many forms, different colors, sizes, ages, all engaged in various activities. "They're showing us who they are," Nari explained. "Not just their military capacity, but their civilization." "Can you respond in kind?" asked Dury. Nari nodded eagerly. "I'll need time to create a proper translation matrix, but we can start with the same mathematical principles they used." For the next several hours, the two ships remained in position, exchanging increasingly complex messages. Nari worked without rest, developing algorithms to interpret the human communications while sending carefully crafted responses. The tension aboard both vessels gradually eased as the exchange continued. On the Deterrent, Admiral Kim watched with growing hope as Commander Park coordinated the communications effort. "They're responding, sir," she reported, unable to hide her excitement. "Each message is more sophisticated than the last. I think we're actually talking to them." Kim nodded, relief evident on his face. "Well done, Commander. You may have saved us from a terrible mistake." As night shift replaced day shift, Nari continued working. She barely noticed when Dury brought her a nutrition packet. "You should rest," he suggested. "Soon," she promised, not looking away from her screens. "I'm close to a breakthrough." 3 more hours passed. Then, as the first light of distant stars filtered through the ship's observation windows, Nari sat up straight. "I have it," she said quietly. Then louder, "I have it. Commander Dury, I can translate their core message." The bridge crew gathered around as Nari displayed the translation on the main screen. The message was simple but profound. "We come in peace, though prepared for war. Our history has taught us caution, but our hearts seek friendship." Dury read the words several times. "They're not predators," he said finally. "They're survivors." Nari nodded. "A species shaped by conflict, yet reaching for something more." "Respond to them," Dury ordered. "Tell them we hear them. Tell them we understand." The great hall of the Collective Council gleamed with soft blue light. Hundreds of representatives from 87 worlds sat in rising circular tiers. At the center stood 2 figures who looked very different from each other but stood as equals. Science Officer Nari had never imagined addressing the full council. Her work had always been in distant space, discovering new life forms. Yet here she stood, wearing the ceremonial blue robes of a special ambassador. Beside her stood Commander Jaiwoo Park, the human who had changed everything. Park wore a simple white uniform with Earth's planetary emblem. She looked small among the various alien forms present, but her posture showed confidence. 3 months had passed since that tense first meeting in the Kuiper Belt. 3 months of careful communication, growing trust, and finally this historic journey to the collective's homeworld. The human vessel that brought them, a civilian science ship called the Harmony, waited in orbit above. The deterrent had returned to Earth as a gesture of peace. "Honored Council," began Nari, her voice carrying through the vast chamber. "I present to you Commander Jaiwoo Park of Earth, representative of humanity." The council leader, Elder Miju, nodded in acknowledgement. "We welcome Earth to this chamber. But many questions remain about your species. Your warship that first approached our science vessel troubled many of us." Commander Park stepped forward. "We understand your concerns. In our history, we have often faced threats and dangers. This shaped how we see the unknown." "Yet your ship came in peace," noted another council member. "Yes," Park agreed. "Because while we prepare for threats, we hope for friendship. This is the human way." Nari moved to stand beside Park. "The humans present a fascinating paradox," she explained to her fellow collective members. "Their development was shaped by conflict, yet that history gave them a deep appreciation for peace. They built warships not because they want war, but because they believe strength can prevent it." Murmurs spread through the chamber. This concept seemed strange to many present. The collective had long believed that advanced civilization naturally abandoned military development. "May I explain more about my people?" asked Park. Elder Miju nodded. "Please do." "Throughout our history, humanity learned hard lessons through conflict," Park said. "We built defenses because we feared meeting dangers unprepared. But our true strength isn't in our weapons. It's in our adaptability, our creativity, and our ability to understand others, even those very different from ourselves." She gestured around the room. "Look at this council. So many different forms of life, all working together. Humans dream of such unity. We've achieved it on our world after centuries of struggle. Now we hope to join your greater community." An older council member spoke up. "Yet you continue to maintain your warships? Even now?" "Yes," Park answered honestly. "We cannot change our nature overnight. Caution is deeply ingrained in us. But we offer our knowledge, our art, our science, and our unique perspective in exchange for friendship." Elder Miju studied the human carefully. "Show us examples of what your people create when not building weapons." Park nodded and activated a small device she carried. Holographic images appeared in the center of the chamber. Earth music filled the hall, a simple children's choir singing about peace. The images showed human achievements, magnificent buildings, medical breakthroughs, environmental restoration projects. "Beautiful," whispered several council members. "Humans contain contradictions," Nari explained. "They create weapons and also create beauty. They prepare for war while working for peace. It is unique among species we have encountered." The council deliberated for hours after the presentation. Park and Nari waited in a small side chamber, sharing a meal of fruit and discussing the differences between their worlds. Finally, they were called back. Elder Miju stood to address them. "The collective council has decided to establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth," she announced. "We find your species puzzling but intriguing. Your human caution approach challenges our understanding of intelligence evolution, yet we see wisdom in it." Park bowed deeply. "Thank you, Elder. Earth welcomes this new friendship. However," Miju continued, "we request that future visits to collective worlds be made in civilian vessels only." "Agreed," Park said without hesitation. As they left the chamber, Nari turned to her human friend. "Your approach will change how the collective views the universe. Human caution is already becoming a phrase among our diplomats, preparing for dangers while hoping for peace. Park smiled. Fear almost prevented our peoples from meeting. Understanding brought us together. The UES deterrent frightened us at first, Nari admitted. Now we understand it represents a species that learned from its past and wants a peaceful future. But will never again be caught unprepared, Park finished with a nod. Outside the council chamber, representatives from dozens of worlds waited to meet the human visitor. A new chapter in galactic history had begun, one that would blend collective wisdom with human caution, creating something stronger than either alone.